Sivaya Nama Tiruchitrambalam. Welcome back to our discussion on the 9th Thirumurai. We have already completed 13 Thirupathigams with Lord Shiva's grace. Now we are stepping on to the 14th Thirupathigam. We are starting with the very first verse as of now. This particular Pathigam is written to the place called as Thirupoovanam, which is in the district of Madurai. And this Pathigam is also written by the saint called as Karuvoor Thevar. Beautiful verse, beautiful temple, beautiful environment as well. This is the only place, as in the temple, out of all the 14 temples which has been Thiruvisaippa places, as in some places, this is the only place which is in Madurai. So we are going to start with the very first Pathigam, very first verse from the 14th Thirupathigam. This is also in the pun called as Panjamam. Let's look at the first verse. Tiruchitrambalam. Thiruvarul Purinthaal ஆண்டு கொண்டிங்கன் சிறியனுக்கினியது காட்டி பெரிதாருள் புரிந்தானந்தமே தரும் நின் பெருமையில் பெரியதொன்றுளதே மருதர சிறங்கோங்காயில் மரம் சாடி வாரை வாழம் கவர்ந்திழி வைகை பொருதிரை மாறுங்கோங்காவண வீதி பூவணம் கோவில் கொண்டாயே. திருச்சிற்றம்பலம். This verse, the last two lines, talks about the beauty of the place, as in the natural resources that's available in that place. This place is filled with beautiful forest, and the forest has a lot of beautiful, big, magnificent trees, and those trees are even uprooted by the rivers because the rivers are coming in such a force. And that kind of a place is Thirupoovanam. In this place, Lord Shiva resides. Who is Lord Shiva? He is the one who has taken over me. Has he taken over me because of my eligibility? No. If you talk about applying for a job, I need to first equip myself, make sure that I'm eligible for the job, and then I need to apply for the job. When I'm selected, I can be for sure that it is because of my talent that I got a job. But being a Sivanadiyar is not that way. It is not because of our eligibility, but only because of his grace that we can get this uniform of Sivanadiyar, and we can get this title of Sivanadiyar. Being a devotee of Shiva is not because of our qualification, rather because of his grace on us. So what Lord Shiva has done to our saint, as in the author here, he has taken over our Karuvoor Thevar, as in he started showing him what are the beautiful things in this world, worldly attractions. All the worldly attractions are shown. After that, one by one, everything started disappearing, and Lord Shiva started showing him the real bliss, the permanent happiness, the permanent blissful state, which is what most of us are longing to achieve. But without going through these worldly attractions, we can't directly go on to Lord Shiva's. We can't even think about Lord Shiva's lotus feet. That is where the step comes in. These are all based on each and every step. All these are baby steps. So we need to go through this Dhanukarana Bhuvana Bhogam, which is basically the life that we are going through right now, the earth, as in the planet that we live in, all the even this body, including this body, even the pleasures that we have around us, everything. So all these are given to us because we need to get rid of our karma. Once we get rid of our karmic deeds or the effect, that is where slowly Lord Shiva's grace will start falling on us, and then he will start showing in the permanent happiness. This is what the first verse is all about, and the second verse. The verse goes this way. Tiruchitrambalam. பாம்பனை தூயின்றோன் ஆயன் முதல் தேவர் பன்னெடும் காலம் நிற்காண்பான் ஏம்பலி தீருக்க என்னுள்ளம் புகுந்த எளிமையை என்றும் நான் மறக்கேன் தேம்புனல் பொய்கை வாழை வாய்மடுப்ப தெளிதரு தேரல் பாய்ந்தொழுகும் பூம்பனை சோலை ஆவண வீதி பூவனம் கோயில் கொண்டாயே. திருச்சிற்றம்பலம். In this verse, here Karuvoor Thevar is talking about a very important quality of Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is in the place called as Thirupoovanam, and this place is filled with water resource and natural resources. This place is also the place where Lord Shiva is residing with so much of an attachment. Now, in this place, Devas as well as all, they are talking about Brahma and Vishnu, but how we should interpret this is, if someone is having a lot of education, as in their educational background is so strong, probably an IAS or probably they have like 2 to 3 PhDs, it doesn't matter. Even if they go to Lord Shiva and they try to see Lord Shiva will hide himself. Same ways, if we are able to see someone who is the richest man in this world, richest man in this planet, even this person, when he goes and tries to see Lord Shiva will hide himself. But to whom is Lord Shiva going to be visible or making himself visible is those are diyars who can really fall in love with Lord Shiva and surrender themselves completely. Only to those adiyars Lord Shiva will show himself or will make it more clear that he is there. Similar to this verse, the author Karuvoor Thevar says, Lord Shiva has hidden himself from all the devas, but so easily he got into my heart and he is residing in my heart. With full enthusiasm, he is residing in my heart, and it is because of his grace. And as we said earlier, it is not because of our eligibility or my eligibility, but it is because of his grace that he is within me. That's what verse number 2 is all about. 14th Thirupathikam and the 3rd verse. The verse goes this way. Thiruchitrambalam. அரை கடலொலியின் தமருகத்தரையில் கையினில் கட்டிய கயிற்றால் இருதலை ஒரு நாள் இயங்க வந்தொரு நாள் இருந்திட எங்கள் கண்முகப்பே விரிதிகள் விழவின் பின் செல்வோர் பாடல் வேட்கையின் வீழ்ந்த போதா வீழ்ந்த பூரி சடை தூவுக்கும் ஆவண வீதி பூவனம் கோயில் கொண்டாயே. திருச்சிற்றம்பலம். Third verse is something for us to imagine. In this, the author, the saint Karuvoor Thevar says, when Lord Shiva is walking around the streets, because people are musicians are singing their songs, and there are a lot of music around in this place, so he is in the form of music, and Lord Shiva loves music, so he is following those musicians because of the beauty, because of the mesmerizing musics. He is nodding his head or swaying along with the music. Because of his sway, all the flowers from his hair has fallen on the streets of Thirupoovanam. What a lovely imagination, isn't it? But how we should see this is, the music or the musician is nothing other than the breeze. Lord Shiva is the Maragata Lingam, which is basically the trees. Due to the breeze, all the trees are swaying, and because of those, the flowers in those plants or the trees and the shrubs and the bushes are all falling down. It is as if flower beds on the street. Such a beautiful appearance that we could visualize, isn't it? Now, this is the place called as Thirupoovanam, and in this place, which is called as Thirupoovanam, Lord Shiva is in the form of Nada Tattva. How do we know that? What do we mean by Nada Tattva is he is in the form of Nada Tattva and he is beyond that. So, he is the one who is holding on to the damru. Damru is basically the one of the musical instrument which he is using to do his creation. We all know, we call it as the Panchakrityam, which is basically the 5 deeds that he does: creation, and then he sustains it, and then he destructs it, and then he is the one who is hiding things, and then he is also the one who is showing his grace. So when we talk about these 5 duties of, or the 5 actions that he is performing, creation is done as part of the Dhamru. And this Dhamru, there are 2 sides to it, and there is one string attached to it. This one string, so when he is shaking it, the string moves up and down, or the 2 sides, and it is making the sound. And this sound is the creation, is the reason for the creation of this universe. So he is in the form of Nada Tattva. That is why he is also in the form of music. That is why he's enjoying music as well. So this is also one of the reason why we always say, sing Thirumuraigal. Once we start singing Thirumurai, Lord Shiva will be next to you. You will feel that he is there just by your side, because he is music. He is in the form of music, and he loves music. That is what verse number 3 is all about. 14th Thirupathikam and the 4th verse. The verse goes this way. Tiruchitrambalam. கண்ணியல் மணியின் சூழல் பூக்கங்கே கலந்து பூக்கொடுங்கினேர் கங்கன் நுண்ணியை எனினும் நம்பனின் பெருமை நுண்ணிமை இறந்தமையாரிவன் மண்ணியல் மரபின் தங்கிருள் மொழுப்பின் வண்டினம் பாட நின்றாடும் புண்ணிய மகளிர் ஆவண வீதி பூவணம் கோயில் கொண்டாயே. திருச்சிற்றம்பலம். This is a verse which is filled with Saiva Siddhantam. The concept of Saiva Siddhantam is wherever we don't have light, darkness will prevail, which means if our heart is dark with Arnavam, which means the light, which is Shivam, is missing. All we have to do is bring in Shivam into our heart, so that the darkness we can eradicate the darkness in our heart. How do we bring that? How do we do that? It all starts with our eyes. Now imagine when we are seeing something, we are staring at something, but if our heart or mind is not in sync with that, we won't be able to see what is in front of us. Even though our eyes is stuck on that object, we will not realize or relate with this object. So what we have to do is start seeing and start meditating on Lord Shiva, which means the heart or the mind should be stuck with Lord Shiva. Once this starts happening, whatever you see, wherever we see, everything will be Lord Shiva, in the form of Lord Shiva. So we will start seeing Shiva everywhere, and that is the time when the darkness from our heart will be totally gone. That is what verse number 4 is all about. You look at this, he says, Lord Shiva is residing in my heart. How did he get into my heart? It is through the eyes. He entered the eyes and he got into my heart. When he is there, we all know he is such a small being, as in he is smaller than an atom, but his grace is so magnificent, it is so huge, it is so big that we can't express it in words. So the biggest of the biggest of the biggest, Lord Shiva, becomes so minute to get into our heart. That shows what a grace he has for us. This concludes verse number 4, 14th Thirupathikam and the 5th verse. The verse goes this way. Tiruchitrambalam. கடுவினை பாச கடல் கடந்தைவர் கள்ளரை மெல்லவே துறந்து உன் அடியினை இரண்டும் அடையுமாறடைந்தேன் அருள் செய்வாய் அருள் செய்யாதோழிவாய் நெடுநிலை மாட திரவிருள் கிழிக்க நிலை விளக்கலகில் சாலேக புடை கிடந்திலங்கும் ஆவண வீதி பூவணம் கோயில் Kondaye Thiruchitrambalam. Today's verse tells us what level of surrendering attitude one must have. When we do something, we shouldn't be expecting a result immediately. As in, even to God, we are doing that. Okay, I've done my puja, so give me the benefit. I've chanted your name, I've chanted the mantra, give me the benefit. Isn't this something like a barter system that we are working on right now? But Lord Shiva doesn't work like that. It is all about love. Imagine we are in a sea, ocean. The ocean is basically our anavam, the entanglement. And in that ocean, we are also entangled with our karmic deeds. And the karmic deeds are so cruel that it is just pulling us into the ocean. Not only that, we are also having 5 siblings who are within us. We all know the sense organs. Those 5 is also trying to pull us into the ocean, which means there is no way we can get out of it. But as long as we have Lord Shiva's grace, he will send us a guru who will initiate us in this path, who will give us the syllable mantra, the 5-letter syllable mantra, Shivaya Nama or Namasivaya. Based on the mantra, once we start chanting it, we can get rid of the 5 entanglements. With that, we can get rid of our karma. Because of that, we can easily swim across the ocean. All we have to do is just surrender ourselves. Get rid of these 5 entanglements and surrender ourselves to Lord Shiva. After that, what he is going to do with us is his plan. It is his problem. Let's not take his problem as our problem and start confusing, or rather ask questions about what is our state or what is our future or whatever. It is none of our business. All we have to do is just surrender. Once we surrender, he will do whatever it is needed, whatever is needed for the soul, so that we can swim across the ocean. This place is called as Thirupoovanam. Poovanam place is filled with beautiful buildings, and those buildings have lamps. Even in the night, those lamps are glowing so bright. That is what the place Poovanam is all about. And here Lord Shiva is residing, and I have surrendered myself to him. Whether he is going to accept me or what he is going to do with me is his problem. That is what verse number 5 is all about. 14th Thirupadikam and the 6th verse. The verse goes this way. Thiruchitrambalam. செம்மன கிழவோர் அன்பு தாயென்றுன் சேவடி பார்த்திருந்தலச எம்மனம் கூடி கொண்டிருப்பதற்கானார் என்னுடைய அடிமைதான் யாதே அம்மனம் குளிர்நாள் பலிக்கெழுந்தருள அறிவயர் அவள் குழல் சோரும்பு பொம்மென முரலும் ஆவண வீதி பூவணம் கோயில் கொண்டாயே. திருச்சிற்றம்பலம். Again, this verse is also reinstating the earlier verses, which means it is not because of my eligibility or whatever I have acquired that Lord Shiva is residing in my heart. Rather, it is because of his grace. So, Karuvoor Thevar starts in a very simplified manner. He says, there are so many saints out there. There are so many souls which has already attained that maturity level. These saints who have achieved the maturity level, they are already struggling to achieve Lord Shiva's feet. They are begging for his love. But what Lord Shiva has done is, instead of showing them his grace, he came all along into my heart and he is sitting there. Which is to say, I have not done anything. I don't have the qualification for it, but it is because of Lord Shiva's grace that all these are happening. That is what verse number 6 is all about. And he also says the place is called as Thirupoovanam, which is filled with all beautiful sceneries. Here there are young girls, beautiful girls, who has worn all the beautiful flowers on their hair, and there are bees, honey bees, which is around these flowers. So which means the place is so harmonious and it is so rich. That is what verse number 6 is all about. He says the place is so rich and Lord Shiva is there, who's not bothered about who is doing what or how much, but he's only looking at the intensity of, or the intention of, the services that he's receiving, and he's showing his love by coming and sitting in our heart. That is what verse number 6 is all about, 14th Thirupadikam and the 7th verse. The verse goes this way. Tiruchitrambalam. சொன்னவில் முறை நான் காரணம் உணரா சூழல் புக்கொழித்த நீன்று கல்நாவில் மனத்து என் கண்வலைப்படும் கருணையின் பெரியதொன்றுளதே மின்னாவில் கனக மாளிகை வாய்தல் விளங்கிளம் புரை தவழ் மாடம் பொன்னாவில் பூரிசை ஆவண வீதி பூவணம் கோயில் கொண்டாயே. திருச்சிற்றம்பலம். This particular verse again resonates the earlier verses that we have seen. When Lord Shiva is in us, has taken over us and given us the responsibility of being a Shiva devotee, it is not because of our qualification, rather it is because of his grace. That is what the starting line talks about over here, starting statement. Here Karuvoor Thevar specifically mentions that he was reciting all the Vedas, the 4 Vedas, in the right manner, in the appropriate manner that it should have been chanted. He was chanting in that order. But in spite of that, Lord Shiva did not appear in front of him. But when he surrendered himself with full love, that is where Lord Shiva came in, looked at Karuvoor Thevar and he said, okay, your heart is full of rock. Now what I'm going to do is soften this rock in such a way that I can live in that. That is what Lord Shiva did. Our heart, if you look at it, I'm not sure if this words are applicable for Karuvoor Thevar, but it is certainly applicable for us, because our heart is stone, it is a rock, it is as hard as a rock, as hard as a diamond. So now Lord Shiva has to come in, he has to melt this, he has to make sure that he's softening this, and then he has started living in our hearts. This is not because of our qualification, as I was mentioning earlier, it is because of his grace. That is what verse number 7 is talking about, and he says this place is called as Thirupoovanam, and Thirupoovanam is filled with so many riches. All the houses that is there, built there, is flourishing with gold. That kind of a wealthy place was Madurai, Thirupoovanam. In that Lord Shiva is residing, the same Lord Shiva who is residing in my heart. That is what verse number 7 talks about as Karuvoor Thevar's words. 14th Thirupadikam and the finale verse. Due to we are so unlucky that we lost the 8th verse, 9th verse, most probably the 10th verse also, we are not sure, but anyways, according to the books, this is the 10th verse, so we are going to directly start with the finale verse. The verse goes this way. Tiruchitrambalam. பூவணம் கோயில் கொண்டென்னை ஆண்ட புனிதனை வனிதை பாகனை வெண் கோவணம் கொண்டு வெண்தலை ஏந்தும் குழகனை அழகெலாம் நிறைந்த தீவணன் தன்னை செழுமறை தெரியும் திகழ் கருவூரனின் உரைத்த பாவண தமிழ்கள் பத்தும் வல்லார்கள் பரமனதுருவம் ஆகுவரே. திருச்சிற்றம்பலம். Today's verse talks about very important concept in Saiva Siddhantam. In Saiva Siddhantam, we always say anyone who's a devotee and who is looking at transcending in this path of Saivism, they can choose 4 paths: Sariyai, Kiriyai, Yogam and Jnanam. If we talk about Sariyai and Kiriyai, we have already seen this. If you take the path of Sariyai, you will consider yourself as a son or a daughter, and Lord Shiva will be the Sariyai is basically Lord Shiva will be the master, whereas we will be the servant. When we talk about Kiriyai, it is the other way, as in we are considered to be the kid and Lord Shiva is our father. When we talk about yoga, that is the place where we will get, that's where the friendly relationship comes, and end of the day we will get the same form of Lord Shiva. The beauty of Lord Shiva will be given to us. The body, the appearance will be exactly like Shiva. Nambi Arurar went on with the yoga path, so he is considered to have the beauty of Lord Shiva. Same with Nandiyam Peruman also. He is also considered to be achieved the Sarubam state. So the Sarubam state is what we will achieve if we read this Padigam according to Karuvoor Thevar. In this he says, Lord Shiva who resides in this place called as Thirupoovanam, he is wearing a nice, he is holding on to the Brahma Kabalam, which is what he uses as part of his, that's basically Brahma's head, which he, because of, we know the Puranas and all these, because of Brahma was having an ego saying that he is exactly similar to Lord Shiva. So Bhairava had to come down and punish him. That is where the Brahma Kabalam is. He is also the one which is having the Ardhanarishwara Vadivam. Ardhanarishwara means exactly left half of his body is given to his consort Uma Devi. He is the one who's so beautiful and he's very young. Young and beauty is together is with Lord Shiva, and he is the one residing in this place called as Thirupoovanam. In Thirupoovanam, on Lord Shiva, when Karuvoor Thevar had sung this Tamil verses, the above verses, of course, as we said, we had gotten only the 8 verses. Anyone who's reading this will stay in the path of yoga, and end of it they will start reaping the benefit, which is Sarubam. That is what concludes this Padigam. I'll come back again with the next Padigam very soon. Until then, Sivaya Nama, Tiruchitrambalam.